This is my favorite story to tell because I believe in the power of testimony. So I was 27 and I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was hardcore wrestling with that. Like, seriously? Like, what?
Your daughter's what, 9?
6 and 9. So
Okay.
at this point, we had another girl, a
Okay.
girl, so 6 and 9, and we had just lost a family member to cancer. So I knew my children were going to associate it with death, and like, how do you navigate that?
Right.
And it was a kind that was highly, everybody survives most of the time. So it wasn't, I wasn't concerned about that, but I knew my children at 6 and 9 wouldn't understand that. But it also was how the Lord got my attention.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Strong Place. I'm Ayo Johnson, Executive Director of Mental Health America of Central Carolinas. Do me a favor. We are trying to get the word out about mental health and reducing the stigma. So please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It does really help us and it doesn't cost you anything. It's really important. We are in a mental health crisis in this country, and it's time for us to get the word out and reduce the stigma. Thank you. And today I have on set with me Hannah Arrowood. She is the founder and executive director of Present Age Ministries. Thank you so much, Hannah, for being with us. Hannah never dreamed of creating and running an international nonprofit committed to combating the sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking of teen girls. Her desire was obedience to God. After working and healing through her own trauma, she was on a mission to provide the same for young girls who desperately needed a lifeline. Hannah spent over 10 years of experience in corporate America, working at big banks, corporate investment firms, and an international distribution company. In 2009, she began to dream about more and walked away. She walked away from a comfortable job and she stepped out on faith. Her educational background is in business administration with an emphasis on project management from the George Washington School of Business. Hannah utilizes her experience to spearhead program development and evaluation of systems to establish collaborative approaches to better serve and protect our children. We have that in common, and I love that. In North Carolina, Hannah serves as the president of the Charlotte Metro Human Trafficking Task Force and as a member of the Cabarrus County Task Force and Regional Task Force, where she chairs the Minor Victims Subcommittees. In addition, she sits on the board of directors of counter-trafficking agencies in Kenya, yes, you heard me right, Kenya, and in Thailand. Under her leadership, Present Age has received numerous awards for their outstanding work with survivors. Most recently, Hannah received an award for excellence in the pursuit of justice by the U.S. Attorney's Office for her dedication for advocating for her survivors. Thank you. That was a lot.
That's so
I
much.
always stumble over the bios, but I love to read them because I just want our audience to know a little bit about who is gracing the present. They're giving their presence to Strong Place. So thank you and welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much for allowing me the time to be here with you. I'm excited about our time.
Yeah. And so actually, we just met a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago. You were one of our featured speakers at my Rotary Club. I'm a Rotarian, the Rotary Club of Charlotte. So shout out Rotary Club.
Yes.
And we actually have another Rotarian coming soon on the set. And so, yeah, just excited when I heard your story and all the wonderful work you were doing. I was like, I have to get her on Strong Place because we've got to shed a light on this really dangerous situation that we have going on right now with human trafficking, and especially with the sex trafficking of teenage girls, which I feel like I can't even scroll my timeline right now without hearing about girls going missing at record numbers in different parts of the country. So I'm really excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. And thank you for making space to talk about this. It's such an important thing, and we don't talk about it enough.
We don't. And I think that there is a direct connection between mental health and human trafficking, especially sex trafficking. And I know there's some really great work being done to, recover the girls, but I can't even imagine the mental health challenges and struggles that they deal with, when they are regained or reattached, that's not the word I want to use, but reconnected
Yeah.
to either families or their lives, or either go on to start a new life. But first, I want to hear more about you
Okay.
as a person, and
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about your own personal mental health journey.
Yeah. So, my own personal mental health journey is one of lots of twists and turns and ups and downs. And, I don't think it was until my 20s that I was like, wait a minute, I had a traumatic childhood that I needed to start to unpack. And if I shared this when we were at Rotary Club, but if anyone is familiar with adverse childhood experiences, there are these markers and measures of abuse or neglect that are measured, and there's 10 of those. So when we do this in our trainings with volunteers and with staff and people who want to work with the clients that we serve at present age. But, I was doing my own reflection in preparation for one of those trainings that I was facilitating. And I was like, wait a minute, I have 6 out of 10 of these. And have I actually unpacked that? And so over the period of years, I was a victim of sexual abuse as a child, and parent separation, emotional neglect, so much trauma. I was exposed early on to the occult, which not personally, but it was in and around my family, and experienced a lot of horrific things in that capacity, and threats, and really understanding the depths and darkness of evil in my house. And so there was just a lot of exposure that really left me. For me, I made a decision at like 16 years old that I wasn't going to depend on nobody. And so for me, I went very much into the try to prove me wrong. And
Wow.
So I became very motivated for school and to be successful, because that gave me a sense of control. And I didn't know that. Those weren't conscious choices I was making at that time. But I mean, when I look back at that time of life, I wrestled with depression. I wrestled with, this is too much. I want it to be over. I mean, I never would say I was suicidal. I just didn't care to live. And so there was all of these wrestlings that took place. And then when I got married, I was married at 19, so I was very young. But even then, not even realizing that things and ways that I was interacting with my husband were actually triggers. And so it took years to really unpack that. And of course, had great counseling. I'm an advocate of counseling. I think everybody needs it. But I think that it just took years to realize not only the emotional soul level, but also the spiritual level. And in what I would describe as soul ties that had to be severed and unbroken because of trauma and because of things that had been done to me in very critical years of life.
Absolutely. I completely relate. Had a lot of those similar experiences as a child and into teenagehood. And when you start to look back on it, and I think especially as women, because we do so much and we take care of so many things, we become like master compartmentalizers. And so you compartmentalize,
Absolutely.
and then you get to a moment when you are preparing for a training or preparing to speak, and you start to do some personal reflection to make your speech relevant. And then you're like, oh,
You have a whole moment.
right. A whole moment in the middle of preparing for something else.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a lot.
Yeah.
How did I make it? How am I here?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think for me, so much of it was really incorporated and twisted into my faith. And because so much of the trauma was centered around, organized religion and faith, for me, that was so difficult to untangle. And that I think, but when I gave myself permission to start asking those questions, and for me, that's one of the most beautiful things, is that somewhere along the line, someone said, Hannah, you're allowed to question God. And it was like, it changed my life. And I was like, are you allowed to do that? That's not wrong?
Right.
And so I began to ask God the hard questions, like, where were you? Why did you let this happen? And how can you be a good God and these things happen? And so, but it was in those moments of asking that it actually paved the path to freedom, because I then found the answers. And instead of being hostage and not able to ask the question, that permission actually led to breakthrough and freedom for me. And now we incorporate so much of that in our work at present age. When a girl, there's so much anger.
Right.
And they don't know what to do with it. And sometimes they just need to be given permission. It's okay to be angry. Like, let's get to the root of it, and that we can see now how those steps are, not only did it bring freedom for me and so many of other people that I know, but we're able to see that in the young girls that we serve.
Yeah. So much of what you said resonates with me. I wasn't raised in church, but I remember being the one of my mom's 3 kids that always was asking to go, always asking to go to church. I just felt God like calling me. But my mom had some negative experiences with
like
church.
So many.
Right. And just did not want to go. And I remember her taking me. This podcast is actually named after the street I grew up on in Brooklyn.
I love that.
And so on Strong Place, at the other end of the block, there was a Catholic church. And I would hear the bells ring. Some of the kids in my building went. They were Catholic. And I remember begging my mom to take me. So the one Sunday that I get her to take me down there, we had my fake cousins, right? So her friends' kids were my cousins.
For sure.
I remember seeing them going up to take communion, and I'm begging, and I'm like, I want to go up there. She's like, you can't. You're not allowed. There's certain classes you have to go through.
It's a process.
And then my sister started screaming her head off, and we got put out. And so there was the end of that.
Well, there's that.
Right. And we still tell that story today. She was always, if she was here, she'd be rolling her eyes like, really? But and as years go by before I get to go back. But my story is a little bit different because I also have experienced church trauma, but as an adult, because I did find my way into ministry.
Yeah.
And then that's where, unfortunately, and so there's so many things to unpack there.
Yeah.
But no matter the age, you still find yourself asking God, why? Why did you let things happen to me? I was just a kid, or I was just a teenager. I just love the fact that you said you found that liberation when somebody said you are allowed to question him, because there's relationship there, right? That's where we deepen our relationship with God, when we do get to that point where we feel comfortable enough to ask him, what's going on with this?
Exactly. And I think so much, at least in my own personal experience, whether it was sexual trauma or emotional trauma, any of that, parent separation, all the mental health, all the stuff, it's relational in nature.
Right.
And so the very thing that we need, I'm convinced of, is relational healing.
Yes.
And so for me, I would sit in my prayer closet, in this a closet I'd made shift because it got ugly sometimes in my time with the Lord. And I would just sob. And like, I can't reconcile it. Like, how is this what it is? Even to this day, the way that we got interconnected with the occult, I'm a 3rd generation PK, preacher's kid. And so I've only ever known both my grandfathers, generations. That's all I've ever known.
Oh, wow.
So for me, it was such a positive thing. I loved, I didn't know any other world outside of church. I would go when my dad was like going to work in the office, and I would, it was just, I would love to go see my grandpa in another state who was doing the same thing. It was just all I ever knew. But then, it's a longer story. We came to Charlotte to plant a church, and the land that we purchased to build the church was the property used by the occult. And so there was quite literally a war over the land. Oh. And so then our family became the target. And so all hell broke. I could tell stories people wouldn't believe of the things that happened. And during this time, I'm 10 to 16 years old. And so the stuff that just took place, and of course, my father being the leader of this church was now in the crosshairs. And so,
Were you like afraid for him?
Well, I didn't know at the time.
Okay.
I didn't know. All of this I found out when I was 16 years old what was going on, only because he ended up having an affair with one of the ladies in the occult. And so it just,
Oh, Hannah, this is getting spicy.
correct.
Okay.
And so what I knew was like she was really crazy. I called her the crazy lady for most of my life. I mean, full on manifestations, demonic possessions. I mean, thrashing, foaming, people all the time. I mean, people would come to our church and like have guns under their trench coats. I mean, it was wild.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, I'm going to go slide in the hallway on my socks. I mean,
you just was a kid.
And they did shelter us a lot from what that was going on until obviously the news, and my parents then got a divorce and separation. And, you know, from that day, I mean, I came home one day and I was daddy's little girl. I mean, I was with dad all the time, and I came home one day and he was just gone. And all of this started to come out. And so, I mean, the person who taught me everything about what I believed went against everything that he taught me. And I was like, I don't know if I can say this, but F this.
Right.
Like, I'm out. And so
Right.
I spent the next really 3 years like spiraling. And it was, I became a teenage mom at 17. You know, I was in places I shouldn't be. I should be one of our girls. I mean, quite literally have stories of where I ended up in a 60-year-old's penthouse. Like, why am I here? Like, I shouldn't be here, but I don't know how to get out of this. And so it just was a really dark season because I couldn't reconcile those things. You've taught me all of these things, and you did all, like, quite literally, you were sleeping with the devil. Like, quite literally. These people stalked us, threatened to kill us. I mean, they held sacrifices. We would have remains left at our front door. I mean, it was just chaos for a really, really long time. So when I got pregnant and knew I was about to be a mom, I was like, wait, something's got to give. Because either you are who you say you are, talking about God, or you're not. It was like I knew I was at a crossroads because it was going to impact how I raised my now daughter.
Right.
And so I just was in this journey of really untangling the web that was established around not only who I am and my identity, but also what I believed about God.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Listen, this could have been 3 episodes by itself.
Yeah.
But so you have your daughter at 17. How do you become the Hannah that you are today? Like, how do you pull yourself out?
Yeah, so I was single momming it, going to school full time, working full time. Because again, I wasn't going to become a statistic. If there was something I wasn't going to do, is all of that. And so I just kind of put my head down and like started grinding, right, and doing the work. And I now know that was the favor of God because I was elevated. I was given positions I was given a full-time job at was then First Union, before it was Wachovia, before it was Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And they hired me before I even turned 18. And I actually had to wait until my 18th birthday. They're like, you can't actually work here until you're 18. And so like there was things like that all the time. And I really just was blessed to have managers who believed in me, and they saw something in me that I could not see in myself. And they pushed me. We'll pay for you to go to school. I can't do it. Yes, you can. And then I left the Bank of America, went to a corporate investment firm, and, was put in charge of an office. And they were at 24 years old, and they're like, you can do it. And I'm like, sure I can.
24?
I'm going to fake it till I make it. But they believed in me.
Yeah.
And they were fatherly, right? They were all men. I was always in all men environments. And so here we go, the relational trauma came from men.
Right.
And I was put in environments where men, like, they weren't inappropriate. They honored, they built up, they spoke life. And it began to heal, I think, things that I didn't even realize were broken. And it's just a beautiful thing to see how those 10 years in corporate America actually gave me skills that I needed to do what I'm doing now.
Absolutely.
But it also started to heal things that I needed healed in order to be able to step foot into the things that the Lord was calling me to.
Wow. Just the gem of getting healing from the place of that original pain is something in itself. Do you ever find your way back to the church?
I do. So about 18, so I've got my daughter. Here's the beautiful thing. So up until I got married at 19, so my husband and I met my first day of work. He was already working there. And just, again, the Lord and his goodness.
Right.
And so we dated for about 18 months and got married. And right before I turned 20, I was so old. Yeah, right. But my mom, every Sunday, do you want to go to church with me? No. Every Sunday. This woman, listen, but every Sunday would faithfully go and faithfully ask me. And it was never forced. It was always an invitation. Honey, like, if you ever want to go, you're welcome. You're welcome to come with me. And somewhere along the road, a little after my 18th birthday, I'd experienced another sexual assault instance. And it was something just was like, Hannah, girl, this ain't working. Like, this trajectory you're on, it almost felt like living two different lives, right? Like, I would show up and work and I'd be mom, but then I was like I never signed up to be a mom at 18, right? And that's where the anger started to brew. Like, I didn't ask for any of this, right? Like, and so it just was like chaos. And of course I loved my daughter, and there was nothing that I wanted to do more than love her and give her, but I didn't feel like I had what I needed to give her. And so, and the only way I can describe it, it was like, well, I'm going to give you one more chance. Speaking about to God. Like,
right.
I mean, either, and it just began this.
So you were giving God one more chance, or you felt like he was telling you,
I was giving him one more chance.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's actually what happened.
Right.
But in my 18-year-old brain, that's
right.
what
I'm giving you one more chance.
I'm going to give you one more chance.
Right.
And it really began to be such a beautiful place of like being reintroduced. Because now my dad wasn't the one introducing me to him.
Right.
And it was really the first time ever that he was not the spiritual leader in my life.
Did you feel safer? And did you feel like God was directly a spiritual leader, or was your mom going to a church now with a pastor that you felt?
No, I definitely was like
safe?
this
with
anybody at church. And I think it was the first time I began to really explore, like, who are you to me? And I, in a very personal, not religious way.
Gotcha.
As a child, I would have not associated those things together. I didn't have the vocabulary for that. But I think it just began to be a very personal journey. And now I'm engaged. I'm about to be married. And so there was also that we were doing this together. And so it began to be a much more personal journey.
Right.
And so from really like 18 to 25, we're doing the church thing. I love it. It is fulfilling. But I would say it wasn't until about 27 when I would say to people that I had an encounter that changed my life with the Lord, that began to be like a marker for how I was going to live the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a bit.
Okay.
You kind of rise up through banking. You go into corporate investment, international distribution. Where do you just say, or when do you just say, enough is enough of this corporate stuff? I feel like I'm being called to something else. And then how do you choose human trafficking?
Yeah, no.
Or does human trafficking choose you?
Yes.
Well, and not choose it, but the fight against it.
Yeah, this is my favorite story to tell because I believe in the power of testimony. So I was 27 and I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was hardcore wrestling with that. Like, seriously? Like, what?
Wow. Your daughter's 9?
6 and 9. So at this point, we had another girl, a girl, so 6 and 9, and we had just lost a family member to cancer. So I knew my children were going to associate it with death. And like, how do you navigate that?
Right.
And it was a kind that was highly, everybody survives most of the time. So it wasn't, I wasn't concerned about that, but I knew my children at 6 and 9 wouldn't understand that. But it also was how the Lord got my attention. I remember going to have surgery. It was thyroid cancer. It was wrapped around my vocal cords. I have always been in music and singing, and the doctors was like, you'll probably never sing again. So, I mean, again, I'm like, Lord, why? It's like everything is just take. But I was being rolled away for surgery, and I had felt for probably about 2 years the Lord pulling me to step away from corporate America, but I was not having anything to do with ministry. Like, listen, I'm gonna come to church. I love you. I might serve in Children's Sunday, every now and then, but that's
right.
what
You're
gonna
get a little bit of this time.
That's what you get from me.
But not my whole life.
That part. Definitely not fully surrendering, because I need to be in control of me. Because when you were in control of me, you didn't take care of me.
Ooh,
We all know that's not true. But
we don't. Yeah, but
that's not true. But that's what I
that's
had
often
believed.
how we feel.
That was the lie that I believed. I was going to have surgery, and I was tired of running. I mean, that was just the bottom point. Like, again, there's lots in that running that I could unpack, and I made a deal with God. Again, this is me. And I said, if you take care of me and my family through this situation, I'll give you my yes. I'm going to stop running. I mean, I just can remember laying on that bed. There, the mask on my face. I'm already being pumped with drugs. I'm like floating in and out of consciousnness, but I meant it. And I'm a classic 8 on the Enneagram. I'm a D out on the disc. I mean, I'm that person.
Ooh, I'm a D too.
So if I say yes,
it's yes.
It's a wrap.
Right.
Like that's what it is.
I'm all in.
So go through the process. Again, at every step, the enemy, I believe, is just trying to take me out. There was a blood clot in my throat. I mean, they had to reopen me up. It was all kinds of stuff. But he was always going after my voice. He's always going after my voice. And that's, of course, now what I do all the time. It's just talk and advocate. But come out of that, everything's fine. And I walked into the CEO's office and said, I'm out. I quit.
Just like that.
And he was like, I'm sorry.
You come back. So
this was October,
right?
And in January, I quit my job. And my husband's like, Hannah, we should pray about this. Like, what are we doing? Like, what's happening?
Salary, bills,
Correct. And I made at that point, I was making over 6 figures. And so it wasn't going to be a little ding in the bucket. It was, we'd built our life around 2 incomes. And I just told my husband, I said, either God is who he says he is or he's not. And we were going to figure this out. And I, of course, floundered. I mean, I was very confident in the beginning. And then as time got closer, I gave a long notice so that they could find my replacement, train him, all of that. And one day I was just having like a full-fledged meltdown. I was like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Like, I think I've lost my mind. And my husband grabbed me and he said, Hannah, if we lose everything, we lose everything. But at least we will have said yes to God. And I was like, all right, then we can do this. And so that next little bit is really where I started to understand the connection, because the Lord led me on this journey to forgiveness, not only of my father, but of who I called the crazy lady. And even led me to reach back out to her, which again, this is a woman who threatened to kill me, stalked me for almost 10 years of my life. I mean, it was like, this was not like an easy task for me. I'd bought a fake burner phone, went to another state to call. That's how terrified I was. I mean, I'm dialing the numbers and my hands are like shaking. And, but in a moment, my life changed. Because here's what happened. I call, I want you to know that I forgive you. I don't hate you. I just want you to know the Lord loves you. Okay, bye. I was ready to like hang up. I mean, I went there to like
throw away the burner phone.
Yeah.
Burner phone.
And then crush it, burn it, like
the movies,
whatever I need to do.
right.
Yes. But what happened is she started weeping. And I was like, well, this was unexpected. I mean, I expected, honestly,
Plot
like
twist.
to be correct.
Right.
And I never meant to destroy your family, Hannah. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And we had a conversation for 7 minutes and 42 seconds. And when I hung up the phone, there was clarity, because I knew a lot about this person, because, my dad was gone in a day. Mm-hmm. So we had to clean out his office. I should have been an FBI agent. The Lord chose another path for me. So I'm very inquisitive. I'm very curious. So I went through everything in his office. I mean, I found pagers, letters, pictures, things a child should never see. But that meant I learned a lot about her in this process. And what I knew was that she was sold to the occult by her grandfather at 5. And she was sacrificially raped during their seances and their occult stuff. And she had had children that had been birthed and sacrificed. I mean, this woman had endured the unthinkable. And by definition of the law, she had been trafficked.
Wow.
And in a moment, after I said yes, after I said yes to the things God was asking of me,
right, which was forgiveness,
trust me,
away,
walk this
right.
out. Yep. In a moment, the Lord said so clearly, like he didn't audibly speak to me. It was just this impression in my heart. If you couldn't love her, you couldn't do what I'm sending you out to do. And in a minute, it was clear. I was like, oh, I now know what I will spend the rest of my days doing. And here we are. And it was just, I think for a moment I got to experience a love that is beyond yourself. There's no way I could love her in my natural. This woman literally destroyed my life. Mm-hmm. And yet there was such compassion towards her that I can't explain it. It's not me. Like when I think about her, I'm like, I don't want to ever see her or talk to her, right? Like it's in my natural, but yet there was a pull of compassion to like, how can I hold you responsible when I know what I know about you?
Right.
And so it became a stake in the ground moment for us and really the foundation of present age in so many ways.
And wow,
I know.
I was at 3 episodes in my head. Now I'm at like 6 episodes in my head. But you gave us all the data and the statistics when you presented at our Rotary meeting.
Yeah.
And so, how do you even know how to, like, what human trafficking is? How to get into it? What brings you into that particular space? Do you just look it up? Do you start asking around? How do you get into that?
So we started working with really high-risk girls, what we would now define as high-risk girls that really just had fill-in-the-blank issues. So whether it was like lots of mental health, anxiety, depression, kids who have a history of sexual abuse, it was, in the beginning, it wasn't super laser focused on trafficking.
Okay.
We spent about 3 years in those first few years just working with high risk girls. And in that we started to learn a lot. And I had the privilege of going and speaking at conferences all over the world, really. Never marketed, never advertised. And people from Mississippi would call and say, hey, we just stumbled across on your website. And do you speak? Will you come and that happened time. And I mean, I was gone probably 2 weekends a month and never spent a dime on marketing. And so I knew that was the Lord. But what was happening is every time we would be at one of these conferences, girls would line up to talk to me. And I began to see this pattern emerging of what they were talking about. They never said the words trafficking. They never said, but the trauma and the abuse that they would share. And then of course they would say, I've never shared this with anybody. I don't know why I'm telling you. And I'm like, I do, and then, so after about 3 years of that, we were like, we need to get laser focused. There was a clear thing that, in my opinion, the Lord was highlighting for us to focus on. And it was the astronomical numbers of sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. And I learned those words in this process. I didn't have that vocabulary in 2009.
Right.
But as I started to have conversations with these young girls, I started to put this vocabulary and this structure around what we were going to be doing at present age.
Right. So tell us about it.
Yeah.
What does Present Age Ministry do in this realm? And what kind of programs do you have out there? Somebody could watch this episode and say, that's happening to me, or I think I just saw that happen. Tell us about what they can do.
So our mission statement is Present Age is committed to combating, and we choose that word on purpose because we're in a war. Mm-hmm. We're committed to combating the sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking of teen girls. And what does that actually mean? Programmatically speaking, we have really 3 tiers of programming. We have education and training. We're 16 years old, present age. We'll be celebrating our 16th birthday in November. And so we've learned a lot. Mm-hmm. And so we get the privilege to go out and do a lot of training, whether it's for professional development, law enforcement, nurses, teachers. But we also believe in the power of education. As a child who experienced a lot of craziness, I want to prevent as much as we can. And that we've been able to actually create custom curriculums, K-5, 6, 8, and for girls who have been identified as high risk. And so those are deployed across entire school systems here in North Carolina. And because we want to prevent the pathway of victimization, not just respond to the crisis of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we call it the front of our house, the preventative side of things.
Mm-hmm.
The back of the house is where we do programs. And so we get referrals from local, state, and federal law enforcement, school systems, our healthcare systems, DSS, DJJ, anybody that works with a child. Chances are we've probably gotten a referral from them. And so when they're identified, we start the journey. And that's what it is. We tell people all the time, like, healing is not linear. It's not A to B. And so we've learned the push-pull and the ebb and flow of working with, first of all, a child. Their brain isn't even fully developed. They're trying to figure out what this thing is.
Right.
So on average, once they agree to engage in program and support services, they have to agree. No one can make them. And that is a non-negotiable, because you think about the choice that's been taken from them so much. If they're not ready, they're not ready. Believe them.
Right.
And so, but once they say yes and they commit, we look at 5 key areas of their healing journey. We look at the medical, psychological, educational, relational, and spiritual aspects of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to participate in helping decide what that looks like. On average, 18 months to 2 years, our girls are with us. And so we're in it for the long haul. And even though they graduate, let's be honest, even though they graduate, they're calling us.
Right.
They're just not engaged. Last night I had text messages from 2 adult. They're like in their mid-20s. Like, they haven't been around in programming for a while, but we tell them, like, we want you to know that you are you.
Mm-hmm.
We see you. You aren't a number to us. You aren't a client to a program. Like, you are you, and we commit to you. And I think that that's what gains the trust, is that they recognize that we're not here because it's a job. We're here because we've been called to do this work. And that doesn't cut off just because we go home.
Whew. Yeah, you do so much. What is the afterlife like for a young girl that had been involved in sex trafficking? If you're able to recover her and reunite her with her family or start her in a new path, what is that normally like? Are you involved in that process? Or are you?
Yeah. So we like I said, we oftentimes have a really long relationship with families. And so we get to see glimpses, not only when we're directly involved, but also 5 years, 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It's so complicated is the word that I would use to describe it. In that beginning period, we're just trying to get them to sleep and eat and like go to school, right? Like the basics of the basics, because, next to war veterans, this population of people have the highest rates of PTSD. And so when you think about that, I mean, they're highly triggered. Sleep is not something that comes easy. The night terrors are so real. I mean, I had a girl early on in this, girl stayed at our house because I was like, listen, Jeffrey, set up bunk beds. I mean, that's my husband's Jeffrey.
Right.
And I'll never forget one of the girls. She said, well, you go upstairs with me to go to bed. And my girls are in their bedrooms, right? So we're trying to give them home and give them belonging.
Right.
And I'll never, ever, ever forget watching her try to fall asleep. I've never seen someone thrash and like jerk. And at one point she was like, I just can't go to sleep. What's the point? And she looked at me and she said, do you know what it feels like to be afraid to close your eyes? Like that's the reality. And they might do a really good job surviving. They might do a really good job of like showing up and showing face. But a lot of times they're terrified to be alone because that's when they can't silence it. If there's other people and other things going on, they can be busy with that. Right. And so I think those first probably 6 to 9 months is that. It's like getting them to just settle. And they also have really a hard time attaching healthy. And so the push-pull is what we call it. When we get close and they start to feel that trust, it actually scares them because then you're going to be someone who leaves me too, right? Because they've experienced that so much, they push away. And then we have to pull them back in, and then they push away. And that's a process really for at least a year. But once that trust, we have a tagline at Present Age that says we rebuild trust, then we restore hope, then we redefine love. It has to be in that order.
Right.
And so once we've built that trust, we can start to tell them that there's hope beyond what's happened to them. And that always comes in counseling and in mentor relationships and building healthy attachments with people. And you start to put those systematic things that give them safety and give them security. And then you start to redefine love. And we get to have fun conversations like, okay, tell me what you think a healthy relationship looks like. What does love look like to you? And they can tell you. They can say, well, and this is usually in a romantic setting, right? Like, well, they're honest and they're loyal. They don't cheat on you. Like, I mean, their bar is low oftentimes at the beginning. And, you know, they make a list. And then we get to have hard conversations like, well, you told me about this new boyfriend you've got. Does he meet that? And now they have to come face to face with how they see themselves, because they accept less for themselves, but they would never accept that for a friend or their mama. And so you start to build them up and like, you're worth more than that. And so why do you sell yourself short for that? And so it's a process.
It's a process.
And it's a long process. And that we have to be committed to. We have to be committed into the long game.
Whew, yeah. I got 12 episodes in my head now because this was so much, but I appreciate the work that you and your team are doing. You know, we've been emailing and talking about you coming in, doing some training for my team, and I know that they're absolutely going to be blown away like I am. Thank you for just your courage, your light, for being obedient to the call, because we need people in these spaces like you. Just really appreciate it. Tell the audience where they can learn more about Present Day Ministries.
Yes. So visit our website, presentageministries.org. You can also find us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Come follow us. We need volunteers. We need people who would give financially. We need people who will pray for us. So reach out to us. We'd love to get you connected.
Yeah, thank you. And I said present day and it's present age. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you how you came up with that name, but I feel like it will take us into a whole other episode. But Present Age Ministries, thank you. I appreciate you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in for another episode of Strong Place. I'm Ayo Johnson, Executive Director, Mental Health America, Central Carolinas. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode. I promise you there's someone in your sphere of influence or in your circle that you don't know that needs this information. This is really crucial that we get this out to the world. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.